Welcome to the I Hate Critics Movie Review Podcast. I'm professional film critic Sean Patrick. With me is Jeff.
Hello.
Where can they get your art, Jeff?
JeffLassiter.com is my website, and it's got all my links. You can buy stickers and prints and t-shirts, anything you want from me.
What's the
And
latest?
you should, because well, as of right now, I am working on a Chapel Roan sticker that I'll have up there as soon as I get that in, and something to do with Maxine, because I'm kind of obsessed.
What's Maxine? I don't even know.
Maxine is a movie we'll be talking about this week. It is the conclusion to the X-Pearl trilogy, starring Mia Goth and everybody that's kind of awesome and hot in Hollywood right now, directed by Ty West. And you and I saw that last night at the Last Picture House here in Davenport.
Yes, we did. And actually, my review's already already up. If you want to check that out, I'll put that on our Facebook page. But yeah, we will be actually, I saved as much as I could for the show.
Yeah.
We got plenty to talk about, but we're not talking about that without Bob.
Exactly.
Because that's a movie for all of us.
Yep.
Have you the phenomenon that is Inside Out is pretty incredible. Third week in a row, number one, $55 million, narrow or $57 million, just narrowly beating out our big movie this week. We'll talk about a little bit later. But are you surprised by this? I'm kind of shocked that the legs that this movie has had.
Not really, because they didn't release it for streaming 2 days after it came out.
True. There's that.
And kids are out of school.
Mm-hmm.
I know that when I went to see A Quiet Place, they had, I think, 4 screenings of it opening of Inside Out 2 opening within like a half an hour of each other. And there were every kid in our area was there at the theater, and it looked like they were all going to go see it because a lot of people were talking about it. So
it's shocking just how quickly one movie has shut down death of the movie theater conversations completely. People just immediately stopped talking about how movie theaters are dead, to the point where we have a new movie theater opening in our area in a week.
We do. Why haven't I heard about this?
This is true. This just announced today. VIP Cinemas is taking over the former Regal location in our area.
Oh,
in a week.
Wow.
Because apparently movie theaters are dead.
Well, they are. I mean, obviously.
Yeah, this is so bizarre. One movie that is just like this leggy phenomenon that just, I guess, no one saw coming. Despite the fact, yes, the original was a huge hit. I think this one is a step down from that original, but in terms of quality. But I think it just goes to show that if you give audiences what they want, what they're looking for, something that could take the entire family to, a 4-quadrant film is still going to draw people to movie theaters.
Yeah, I think that we get this if a movie that everybody expects to do really well doesn't. Furiosa. I honestly, from talking to people who saw it, they loved it, but nobody was asking for it except for George Miller.
Right.
So, that's one of those things where people are going to wait for streaming for something that they're not clamoring for. It's not the next Star Wars movie. It's not the next Marvel movie. It's not, like a big weekend like Barbenheimer weekend. It's nothing like that. So yeah, people know that it's going to be streaming in a week. Like, look at If.
Yeah.
I'm probably going to watch that because it's streaming now, and I just don't. It wasn't something I was into, but they released it like it was 9 days, and that's panic.
Mm-hmm.
That is pure panic from the studio heads. Like, oh my God, this movie is going to get lost and and we have to. And no, it's not. It's if you let a fucking movie sit in the theaters and build up a little bit instead of adhering to these release dates that are they're done years in advance. Like let's see what weekend we have in 2027, and that's going to be the next blockbuster movie.
If, by the way,
So,
has made over $100 million. As
yeah,
much as people
but
were like
still,
calling that film a bomb and saying that it's a failure, it's $100 million movie. I mean, The Fall Guy too is the other one that just if people just were like looking at The Fall Guy going, that movie, oh my god, it did so bad. It's crossing $90 million and it's stayed in theaters this entire time and absolutely killed, despite also being available to rent at home. Like it's absolutely
yeah.
killing. It's
Well,
ridiculous.
I think what I feel like if a movie doesn't do $1 billion, it's a flop. And not every movie is going to do $1 billion, even with ticket prices, as high as they are and everything else. And people want to go to the movies.
Mm-hmm.
But again, as with everything else, the loudest voices are the negative ones. And um, that's what we see on social media. And it has to do with the movie experience. It has to do with Star Wars The Acolyte. It has to do with Furiosa and everything,
Mm-hmm.
the loudest voices are the ones that get the most press. And I would say that is to the detriment of many, many things, including the movie going experience.
The thing that's hurting movie theaters is those voices, is those people who want to cry gloom and doom and say that the movie theaters are finished. They're the ones who are saying that Horizon, an American Saga, is a failure. And it's like, I didn't see that movie. I'm not going to because I'm not. There's not enough money in the world to pay me to sit through a 3-hour Kevin Costner Western. But a 3-hour Kevin Costner Western that makes over $12 million in its opening weekend, that is something to be excited about. Because there's no audience that wants to see that except for the ones that pay the $12 million. They should be head over heels excited about that number, not calling it a failure. Like because the possibility for this movie was never high for a box office hit. It was supposed to be on Fox Nation, this fucking thing. Like that's how this should have gone. But instead, it ends up in movie theaters and it made $12 million. People, and I'm not the kind of person who's here to defend that movie. I have no interest in that movie, but it's not a failure. When you can get that movie, 3 hours in which Kevin Costner doesn't show up until the third hour, I'm told.
Oh, wow.
then you've done something pretty incredible in selling that movie to the tiny amount of audience there is for it.
Well, and the fact that Yellowstone, which stars Kevin Costner, is such a huge TV show, I don't, those people aren't going to go like day one. They are not going to go on Thursday night. They're going to, let's wait till Sunday, or, they're generally older.
Discount Tuesday is going to be huge for that movie.
Yeah. Discount Tuesday, a matinee throughout the week. The second weekend, after they hear a few things about it, that kind of stuff. That's when movies like that are going to...
They're going to have dinner at 3 at Denny's and go see Horizon at 4 and be in bed by 7:30.
Yep.
That's the trajectory of this audience. And that this movie made $12 million as an opening weekend, I am not joking. That is a good number for this movie, and it's going to stick around. It's going to leg out the $37 million budget that Kevin Costner laid out for it. So people are just so eager to scream flop, as if that's some kind of, as if like, it's like back in the day of YouTube when you got to be the first guy to yell first. There's no...
They still do that.
There's no actual prize for you, sir. You said flop first. It's not. There's no one gonna give you a cookie for saying that first. Ridiculous.
People are ridiculous. So,
but I was really happy to see it there. I was a little surprised I didn't see people going, "Oh, Quiet Place only finished second at the box office. Must not be very good."
Look, box office has absolutely zilch to do with how good a movie is. We all know that by now.
I mean, I've been having that argument for years. Ever since M. Night Shyamalan talked about how After Earth opened at number one at the box office. I'm like, and that was the justification. Or the Last Airbender opened number one at the box office, and The Village opened number one at the box office. And I'm like, that doesn't mean shit about the quality of your piece of crap movie. Yeah, that doesn't mean anything.
No.
Opening number one means nothing about the actual quality of the movie, because if quality mattered, Furiosa would be a blockbuster. You know what I mean?
Oh, yeah. Yeah. And I think
Go ahead.
as much as we hate them, IP movies tend to be the ones that draw people back in, but then they may see a trailer that, inspires them.
Exactly.
I saw A Quiet Place, and the last trailer I always kind of come in late a little now because I'm trying to do an experiment when I don't watch every trailer.
Yeah.
But I saw the last half of the trailer for Smile 2.
Mm-hmm.
And I was like, oh, okay. I didn't even know that was coming out, which I probably should have, but
it surprised me too. I saw that when I saw that.
But it's like I've heard people talk about trailers. Like, one of the trailers we saw last night in front of Maxine was one of my favorite trailers of the last 15 years, and that is Longlegs. It doesn't tell you anything about it. There's nothing you can't glean a plot. It doesn't tell you the beats of the story, but it's so interesting that I just can't wait to see it. And I've heard other people mention that too, because I've seen that trailer a couple times. And the fact that people are talking about it and said it looks scary and interesting gives me a little bit of hope, because it's something that I don't think most people, unless they were big horror fans and read about it on the internet, would notice.
But as I'm looking forward to that movie as well, and I think the trailer looks incredible, and the buzz on that has been good for a while now. If that movie gets to $14 million opening weekend, that's a hit. I don't want to hear anything else about it. That's a hit, because that movie I believe is only costing them about $10 million in terms of total cost. So if it makes $14 million on the opening weekend, that's a massive hit. It's not underperforming. And that's the thing that people keep doing over and over again, is this idea if it's not over $75 million opening weekend, it's a failure. That's just the whole Marvel thing just totally warped people's minds, and they pretended that it didn't. They pretended that wasn't the case. We all pretended that we weren't warped by what Marvel was doing and what Disney was doing with Marvel. That was always a bubble. It's like the tech thing. It was always just a bubble. It was like the housing market. It was going to collapse eventually. And it did. No surprise to anybody. It collapsed. And it didn't matter if the movie was good, like Captain Marvel. It didn't matter if it was bad, like Madam Web. The event, people were tired of that product and didn't want it anymore.
Yep, exactly.
All right.
I don't know.
A product people don't seem to tire of is horror films, though. And we're going to talk about a horror franchise tonight that is, it's deathless, it would seem. It seems like they can find new angles on this as many times as they want. It's the A Quiet Place movies. And we're going to start by going back to 2018 and talk about the original A Quiet Place, because you weren't on the show then when we first did this movie, and I've got a lot of things to make up for that review, because I was reading my old review today, and I really feel stupid now. Not because I didn't like the movie, because I did like the movie, but I had a lot of really weird observations about it that I don't feel good about anymore. But we're talking about, of course, A Quiet Place, directed by John Krasinski, written by Beck and Woods, and starring John Krasinski and Emily Blunt. Family living in this post-apocalyptic future where monsters have come and destroyed most of the planet, and if you make a noise, you die. I saw this movie in a previous screening with a group of managers at our local movie theater, and one of the managers was not a horror guy. He shouldn't have been there. Maybe, I don't know. He was more terrified than I've ever seen a human being be terrified of something, and laughing at him, I think, affected the way I saw the movie. Because I couldn't focus on the movie. This guy was just acting like a fucking weirdo the entire time. I loved him. I love him. Kyle's a great guy. He was acting like a fucking weirdo the entire movie. Uh, and so that did affect me. But I went back to it this week, Jeff, and I've even written about this. And what Krasinski does with set pieces in this movie is incredible. It's very much, even though it's not a same movie, because Hitchcock really never made a monster movie, he uses the tools that Hitchcock created, or perfected, I guess, to tell this story, to create these set pieces that are so tense that you can't, you're just left so spent. It's like the buildup and the letting loose of that cathartic moment is so powerful. It leaves you exhausted by the end. I was speaking specifically of the little boy and that toy in the opening sequence. They go to a store. They've established the universe by just simply not talking. They've not done anything vocally to say. Nobody stops to go, "Oh, there are monsters everywhere. They're killing us if we talk." Like, nobody does that. The trailer took care of that. The marketing took care of that. So they just jump right into the story where nobody speaks. Everybody's doing sign language. And even if you hadn't seen the marketing, you'd know what the premise is. If you make a noise, you're going to call forth the monsters and die. Terrific set piece where they give this kid a toy. They seemingly think they've taken the batteries out of it, but the kid puts the batteries back in because he's a kid and he doesn't understand consequences. And it's like what Hitchcock talked about, where it's not the bomb going off. It's the guy making the bomb, building the bomb, putting the bomb in the briefcase, taking the bomb to the location where he wants it to explode, and then walking away while you're just waiting for the bomb to go off. And that's multiple sequences in A Quiet Place where they set up the thing, and then it's the tension of waiting for the thing to happen that becomes the excitement, as opposed to the thing that actually happens, which is itself exciting, but also like, finally it happened. Like, because you're waiting for that thing to make the noise and the kid to die. You're waiting for, there's a nail in a stair that if somebody steps on it, they're going to scream, and that's going to be it for them. And then there's another sequence of Emily Blunt has a ticking time bomb in her uterus. She's going to have to try and have a baby silently. There are three.
That's how I always refer to children.
She's going to have to try and have a baby silently. And that's three of these incredible sequences where you establish the bomb, and then you're leaving the audience to wait for the bomb to go off.
Yep. And the fact that they went there is the most, I guess. The fact that they actually killed a child on screen, that sets you up for how high the stakes are in this movie. And because this is not established IP, this is not a Friday the 13th movie where you know that Jason's going to live and one of the counselors is going to live or whatever. This is a brand new story, and you're taken there right away within the first 5 minutes of the movie. So you know that everybody in the movie is expendable.
Mm-hmm. That's true of John Krasinski's fate in the movie, because he's the biggest star in the movie. Yeah. Nothing against his wife, Emily Blunt, but like the biggest name guy is Jim from The Office going into the movie. And that's when his fate happens, and that great, I fucking know I'm dead moment happens. Mm-hmm. It's shocking. It's you're not prepared for it, and it's incredibly well executed.
Yeah, just so much to like about this first movie that I saw it in the theater, mm-hmm. not knowing a thing about it, and just that it was. I didn't see the trailer for it until like right before, and I was like, oh, well, shit. Then I found out that it was written by two people from the Quad Cities, so that was intriguing. Directed by John Krasinski. I was just like, okay, I want to see what he can do. Mm-hmm. And man, is he a good director? the fact that he used, a hard of hearing actress as his daughter
And she's
to think him,
amazing in it.
yeah, who is just, she's just like the heart and soul of the movie is her, and how her growth through feeling like she's not good enough from being told to stay back with her mom, and then you know she's the one who saves everybody, well, almost everybody.
Yeah. And yeah, clever and inventive in that final sequence is again, just another sign of a smart movie is just using cleverness and allowing these characters to be good characters. And one of the great things about it too, it came about in that reactionary period where movies were starting to put we're going away from characters you hated in horror movies. One of my biggest pet peeves about horror movies are these movies that would just like every one of those IP sequels and remakes to like the Friday franchise or the I mean Friday Nightmare on Elm Street, whatever the fuck it is, Friday the 13th. Those sequence where they just create these awful characters that make you root for like Jason and Freddy to kill them. Like, that era of horror is like the worst era of horror ever for me. And this was kind of coming about at a time where like, no, you're going to give you characters that you actually want to root for and want to see live. And then when they die, it'll matter.
Yeah. Yeah. And I think that that's what this whole series does. It gives you characters who you just want to see succeed and, make it to safety somehow, or kill the monsters, whatever. But the fact that you're never really going to get that because of the situations, that really sets up the drama and the will they or won't they kind of dynamic that I really liked.
I know there's some people listening to this going, Sean, go back to that part where you said something wrong about this movie in the first time you reviewed it and kind of admit you're wrong. And it's not so much about admitting I was wrong. I think part of my thing was that I was hearing so much about this movie being like a revolutionary moment in horror and it's changing the face of horror. And I'm like, slow the fuck down. This is not like revolutionary brand new horror like we've never seen it before. Let's not get crazy about this. Because I've seen so many horror movies, and I've seen at that time, like there were plenty of really great horror movies in the 2017, 2018 period that I thought were not revolutionary, but certainly far more impressive, even classic than A Quiet Place. And so a part of me was kind of reacting against that. I also find some of the A Quiet Place, and we'll get to that more in A Quiet Place Part 2, where I find the whole thing exhausting at a certain point. You can do that setup and payoff thing, plenty of times, as they show, like they do it 3 times at least in big ways where you're kind of left holding your breath and then, finally that's over. That part of it's over. You can only do that so many times before the audience is like, I'm exhausted. Can you please just end already? Which is kind of how I felt throughout the second movie. But I also I was wanting to make like edgy jokes about sex during this period. Like, how do you fuck during A Quiet Place? Like, the stupidest shit that I would because I thought it was funny. I did. I thought it was funny. And I'm looking back at it now and going, it wasn't really that funny. did not need to dedicate either review, written or podcast review time to that joke.
Yeah, nice try, Sean.
I was trying to be edgy, man.
You're such an edgelord.
I wasn't that wrong about the movie. I was just wrong about certain aspects of my approach. Do you remember that talk about this being a revolutionary horror movie?
A little bit. It was definitely out there that oh, this is one of those, it's different, it's elevated horror. And I, I mean, looking at it now, I'm like, I don't know how elevated it necessarily is because it really does go for a lot of gut punches.
Mm-hmm.
It's just, I think by people calling it elevated, it's really just means that it's not a slasher movie.
Mm.
So
I think they did the movie a disservice, honestly, the way they talked it up and the way that so many people, talked about it as the next evolution of horror, and this is how you really do a horror movie, and it just fucking pissed me off. Because I don't think it's fair to the movie to put that on it. I don't think it's quite a good horror. It's very good. It's a very good movie. But to place that type of burden on it as if it's changing the entire genre, I don't think anybody could possibly live up to that.
no, no, I think you're right about that. I think that one of the aspects of the quote unquote elevated horror genre is that it is supposed to allegedly take you someplace you've never been before in horror. And you can have a good different premise, but that doesn't necessarily mean that it's elevated. It means, that it's a just a tight movie that is gonna not be about a slasher.
Mm-hmm.
So
I think part of my resistance to the original and to especially to the sequel is that I have absolutely no hope of surviving A Quiet Place. And I know this not because I'm weak or anything, but because I have a deviated septum. So if I tried to sleep in this universe, I'm done for. I can't sleep quietly. I've been told there's just no option for me to sleep quietly.
yeah, that's one of those things about the whole franchise is that what if you snore?
One giant ripper of a fart and you're done. That how they've never made that joke in one of these movies. I know
it should be like
it's lowbrow, but like somebody had dairy just because it was the only thing available to them in this post-apocalypse, especially on this first day. The only thing they could find was something dairy based, and they were fucked the next day.
you know what? Before this cheese goes bad, we should eat as much of it as we can. Ah!
I am a
that was my contribution to the fart humor of our podcast.
Like I have to sleep with a sleep apnea machine. I'm dead. I'm done for.
Yep.
I can't survive this.
I mean, you have to find a basement with a lot of soundproofing, I guess.
Yeah, why didn't anybody else think
sleep
of
in a podcast studio?
Just sleep in a radio studio. There's just wall to wall noise canceling. That's the only place for me to go.
Exactly.
Oh my god, that's hilarious. So what did you think of A Quiet Place 2? So we're taking this on the road now. They've escaped the farmhouse after burning it down and figuring out how to kill the monsters in the process. And now they're on the road. We've got Cillian Murphy, who I guess was sort of supposedly a peripheral character in the original, though we don't see him. We now see him in the second one and what his role was actually there. And interesting. I think there's a lot of really good executed stuff, but I found it exhausting.
Yeah, I watched that again today, and I even took a nap before because I had a long day at work or morning, I guess. And I think that the grounding part of the cast was John Krasinski in the first one. Because there was always this pillar of strength behind the family. And I know that's sexist or whatever, but since they were scattered, in this one. Since the little girl went off on her own to see what she could find, and everybody else stayed behind. I don't know. It just seemed a little scattershot to me.
Mm-hmm.
It was still really well done and really well acted, but I don't think anybody was given enough to do throughout the whole movie except for Cillian Murphy.
Yeah. I also think I don't think they could have repeated the way that Krasinski did it in the first movie. You can't do that again because it's very obvious if you're doing, that kind of setup and payoff thing that he did so well in the first film. So it feels a little bit more aimless in that way. It doesn't have those grounding elements that kind of underpin the first movie and gave you all of these various things to think about all while the rest of the story is playing out. There are good things about it, but my opening line of my review, and I'm pretty proud of this one. I didn't enjoy A Quiet Place Part 2. I endured it. And that's what it felt like, is like because it's one there where it just doesn't let up from beginning to end, and that can be exciting. It can also be fucking exhausting to never have a moment where you can just take a breath and learn something interesting about the characters. You can't really learn much about these characters because there's constantly like somebody's going to trip over a can and somebody's going to wander off by themselves to go see if they can try and save everybody, and then somebody else is going to go try and find them.
Bear trap.
Exactly. There's all these just things that are going to happen that is going to just make it so you can't take a breath, and I find this movie just to be exhausting.
And I did not care for the fact that they pulled their punches with the when the son got his foot caught in the bear trap and he started screaming. Those monsters are
Jeff. All right. Well, after Jeff narrowly survived an attack by one of those Quiet Place monsters, we're back, and you were just talking about the nature of these monsters.
the fact that they can only hear you, and in some instances they're there like immediately, and in some instances, if it serves the plot of part 2, it takes them a little while.
Mm-hmm.
When the oldest son got his foot caught in the bear trap,
Yeah,
and started screaming, it should have been the end of him. I like the character, but it was main character armor, as you like to say.
Yeah.
The first time he screamed, he shouldn't have gotten a second chance to scream.
Right? Yeah. Dead, just dead. No second chance. He's just done for, like his brother.
But I think, honestly, the baby should have gone.
Let's talk about the baby as a device, because we've got a new device in the new movie that we'll get to. But what did you think of the baby as a plot device?
I didn't love the baby.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, all it really served to do in this one is to keep them in one location.
Mm-hmm.
For the majority of the movie, they were in the safe or the boiler or whatever that thing was.
Yeah.
And that was because of the baby. They couldn't go anywhere because of the baby, and the kid got his foot caught in the bear trap. It just felt like it was just a way to keep them all from going somewhere together. They had to split up because it was dramatic.
Mm-hmm.
And I could think of a lot of ways to keep them together that would lean on that drama. And one of those would be to have the baby out in the woods. You know what I mean?
Yeah, I felt like they found a solution a little too easily. that kind of
Yeah.
took the dramatic element away from that a little bit too much. They did, it was clever, and uh, yeah, there was that kind of ticking time bomb element to running out of air, running out of oxygen, for the box that the baby is in. But it was as a device, it felt like a device.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, I didn't hate the movie. I didn't, it just wasn't, it didn't quite reach the levels of the first one.
Yeah, I definitely feel that, and I did kind of hate it just because I felt just so exhausted. It was just so it was so nonstop that I just didn't have, like, I just felt like I survived that movie. I didn't enjoy that movie. I didn't watch that movie. I just kind of it's a movie that I endured, as I said earlier.
Yeah.
And
I get that.
I kind of feel that way about this new one too. I know it's good, and let's get into it. This is the prequel, A Quiet Place, Day One, taking us back to the first day, which kind of the second one did that already, but they do it for the entire movie this time, I guess. The idea here is that Lupita Nyong'o is playing a cancer patient who is on her last days already when these giant monsters arrive in New York City, and she and her emotional support cat have to make their way to a safe place and try and figure out how all this is happening and why and what to do to get by with the precious few minutes that she has left on Earth. She ends up eventually settling in with a guy named Eric, played by Joseph Quinn, who is a weird character to me that I both connected with too much, as that's his multiple panic attacks were very were too relatable for me, but also I found the device of him and the cat to be, there are moments with him and the cat where the cat becomes a little bit too much of a character, and that kind of pushed me to like there's just a couple of moments where, like, is he like listening to the cat? Like, is he doing what the cat is telling him to do? And that really kind of, I don't know, that kind of pressed too much against I know cats too well. I don't think cats give a fuck if you live or die. This cat seemed
Maybe
to have
not you.
This cat just
But I
seemed to
think
have a little bit
Amy
too much, a little bit too much agency as a character for me. But I overall, I don't think this is a bad movie. And I especially think that Lupita Nyong'o is incredible. I think there are several moments of beauty and grace in this movie that comes simply from her performance. And I thought I was really clever to make her a cancer survivor, and for that to not be, public information from the trailers or the marketing. It was a really interesting idea, though. Again, once they tell you that, it kind of also foretells, exactly how the movie's going to end as well. Again,
well, maybe they give her superpowers or something.
The aliens cure cancer.
Wouldn't that be funny? Holy shit!
The cure for
like
cancer.
she gets scratched by one and she's suddenly cancer free.
Oh wow, that's amazing! I never would have guessed. What a movie. Again, I don't think this is a bad movie, but I've got some things that just kind of keep me from loving it as much as what other people do, which apparently 96% on Rotten Tomatoes. Everybody really likes this.
I am one of those people who really, really like this, and it basically comes down to the performances of pretty much everybody. We meet Jimon Hunsu's character from part 2 in the hard to believe I'm saying this, marionette theater that they're all going to at the beginning of the movie.
The marionette theaters that have always been so popular in New York City that everybody goes to, and they sell out to watch some old dude.
I lived in New York City. The hottest ticket in town was the marionette theater.
The marionette theater. I'm about to die from cancer. You know what I want to do is go spend a day at a marionette theater.
To me, it was funny because Alex Wolff's character kept telling her, we're gonna go to the theater. It's a matinee. You'll love it. And she's like, "Can we go get pizza?" And he goes, "Absolutely." And then and she looks at the sign and says, "A marionette theater." Really? And he's just like, "Well, come on, it's something to do." And but yeah, we meet Jimon Hunsu's character who shows up in part 2. We kind of get his origin story, and his son, who is also in there, played by a different actor, obviously. And he's kind of set up as a savior, like he ends up being in part 2. And I kind of enjoyed that. I was like, I hadn't watched part 2 since I saw it in the theater.
Right.
So when I saw him, it just kind of hit a little bit of a memory. I'm like, was he in part 2? Do I remember that correctly? That he was on the little island? Am I correct? And then watched it again today. I was like, oh, okay, I am right. Okay. Because it's left very ambiguous what happens to his son in that one. And then I was thinking, oh, maybe this isn't his son. Maybe his son got attacked and this is a new kid or whatever. But anyway, but then she has to kind of navigate she wants to go get pizza in the Bronx, and she's bound and determined she's going to do that. And I'm thinking, well, first of all, it would probably be pretty gross. Second of all, I can guarantee you that place is gone by the time you're going to get there.
Well, no, it was only like a day, though. I mean, there might still be pizza.
Yeah.
I mean, yeah.
But I mean, based on how busy the Bronx is all the time and how loud it is up there.
Fair enough. Yeah, I don't know anything about the Bronx, so
I lived there for a week. It was pretty loud.
That was the best thing about the movie, honestly. If I could interrupt for just a moment, it was that note at the start that says that basically New York is just a constant scream at all times. If you consider all the noise all the time,
90 decibels.
At all times. That's fucking crazy.
And I miss every fucking decibel of that place compared to here.
Is it weird to be here where it's like it's not that?
So, little tangent. I watch a lot of true crime, listen to a lot of true crime podcasts and whatever. And, they always say that, the cities are so terrible. Now, I have gotten broken into twice when I lived in New York. I had a friend murdered in Chicago. I watched a guy shoot at a bus and run down my alley in Chicago. But you know what I didn't feel? Unsafe, the way I feel unsafe here, because every fucking Dateline episode is, oh, she lived in the suburbs and she lit up a room, and lurking behind every house in my neighborhood, I'm just picturing some guy murdering his wife. I live not too far away from where a local chiropractor killed and cut up his wife and threw her in the river by our hometown. And your dad was actually involved in that trial. So
my dad and my brother.
Yeah. And
my uncle.
Our uncle, Terry. Yeah. And the fact that that's so close to home here is scarier to me than it, having a friend murdered in Chicago by, a random robbery. It's because that's something that doesn't happen every day. And here it seems like in the suburbs that happens all the time. So, but yeah, I think, the fact that she's walking against the crowd, they're all supposed to go to the South Seaport in near Battery Park. Okay, so they're all going that way and she's going the other way, and she's the only smart one because, of course, this giant crowd of shuffling feet, somebody's going to fall, and they do. And the monsters attack and she runs the other way, and then she meets this other guy who I had no idea was from Stranger Things. He looks so completely different.
I wasn't aware of. I'm not seen Stranger Things, so I didn't know where he was from.
Yeah, it didn't hit me until after. I've seen Stranger Things, but I've kind of lost interest over the last season or so.
I'm so cool. I didn't watch it, Jeff. I don't have a TV.
Okay, sure, Jan.
I just I was coming off like one of those guys, so I thought I'd better deflate that.
I don't even have a TV.
I
I
don't
watch everything on my Game Boy.
I don't like things that other people like.
Ugh. Uh, but when they hook up and they meet up, I don't mean hook up like they have sex, because if they'd had sex, the movie would have lost me. When they meet up and she takes him to her house and or her apartment, and they're gonna, she's gonna go get this pizza, and he decides to just join her. They have a really good chemistry together.
Yeah.
I was really surprised with the fact that there was no sexual tension there. Thank God. They just were trying to get through this together. And for her, her being a terminal cancer patient, I'm assuming it was cancer. Did they actually say that? I don't remember.
I think they did, yeah. Because there was a cancer support group, and she did say cancer sucks and all that.
I just didn't know. Yeah.
So, yeah.
But the fact that she's going to save him was refreshing too.
Yeah.
She's going to lead him to safety and give up her life for him, like John Krasinski in the first one, for his kids.
Right. But the fact that she is dying, though, does kind of like tell you that's what's going to happen.
Well, again, I was like, okay, what's going to happen if she's dying? Is she going to actually die, or is this going to be, is she going to like get rescued, and then they put her in a very quiet hospice?
No, it was always going to be. It was always going to be a thing where she sacrificed herself to save him and the cat. That was that felt to me like that was just always going to happen.
Yeah, especially the cat. But I really enjoyed it. I thought that the performances were really good.
What about the cat performance? The way that
the cat is one of the best cats I've ever seen on screen. I just like when she takes it in, she's like, it's a support cat. It's an emotional support cat. And she's at the bodega, and he's like, you can't bring a cat in here. And she just looks at the cat that's sitting on the counter next to him.
Yeah,
because it's an emotional support cat.
Lupita Nyong'o's withering gaze is pretty fantastic. Everything she does is yes. Just superb. She's amazing, and she's the main reason why I don't hate this. Because there's an element of this that for me that I do that not hate, but like I don't enjoy it, because again, it is one of those things where it is exhausting to be that tense constantly, and you're just waiting for the next person to trip over their feet or just do something dumb that gets everybody killed. It gets tiresome, and again, I also find that there's an element of hopelessness that enters in at certain points in this franchise that I like. Thankfully they have that island that they introduce in 2, which kind of does introduce an element of hope, but certainly not. I mean, like we talked about before, there's no hope for me in this franchise. I'm done for. I've got no chance. But it's not an entirely hopeless thing, but it feels like too much of post-apocalypse horror for me is that hopeless quality. Like there's just everybody's bad, everyone's going to kill you, everything is going to kill you, and there's no reason why you would want to survive. And I think this movie avoids that for the most part, but there's an element of it that nags at me particularly.
Yeah. I feel like if they do another one, it should be the last one, and it should be about how they eradicate them.
Yeah.
I don't need to see, Penny Lane, Quiet Place story. I don't need to see Sean Patrick, a Quiet Place story. I don't need to see, like everybody and how they deal with it over and over and over. I think that would really cheapen it. But I think one really good end story would be great.
I think they should do it where they've actually like we're at the end of the invasion, where they're finishing off the monsters and trying to rebuild society.
Yeah.
Like, where do we go from here? Who's in charge now, and who's going to lead the way, and what are the obstacles that they're going to have to face in rebuilding?
Yeah.
I think there's a story to tell there.
Oh yeah. Yeah, I don't need I don't need an endless supply of Quiet Place movies.
No.
But if they have a really good idea, like I thought this was a really good premise. The first day that wasn't with John Krasinski and his rapidly growing children. I mean, that was, we don't need, the whole first day of that, but a first day of, just some random people is fine with me.
The first Quiet Place day one, Princeton, Iowa would be hilarious because it'd be just nothing happening. Like the monsters aren't there, and just everybody's like, "Man, are you hearing what's happening everywhere but here?" Because there's nothing to do.
I wonder why they're not coming here.
Small town life. So boring, even aliens don't want to eat it.
Yep. Oh. Yeah, that's, what? When somebody asks me if I talk to some dude on the apps, I'm going to be like, they're like, "Oh, what's it like living in your town?" I'm like, "Oh, the Quiet Place aliens wouldn't even be able to hear us. That's how boring it is."
Yeah, we're fine. There's nothing. We're used to being days and days without any sound. It'd be hard to mute the TV, but you'd do it,
I guess I'm gonna just watch my movies with subtitles from now on.
The only thing you got to worry about is your dad's recliner making a noise.
Not anymore. He died.
Oh. I was speaking of dads in general, but yeah, that's fine. Make it about you, Jeff. You're the only one with a dead dad. It's like, it's fine.
I mean, the only one who matters is me.
Jeff's the main character.
Always.
Oof. Man.
Yeah.
So, I mean, it's obvious. Like the first one is still the best one, and I would say the third one is the second best one, and then A Quiet Place Part 2 is third. That's the one that's closest to being not good, but they're all good. I mean, they're all skillfully done. They're certainly not I don't think any of the three are bad necessarily.
Mm-hmm.
So yeah, any final thoughts on the A Quiet Place franchise?
I enjoyed the last one. I think everybody should see it. So
I have problems with it, but I think it's good enough. I think that cat is a little bit too much of a character for me. Just those moments where the cat is like seeming to give him directions, the cat bringing them together, I rolled my eyes so hard when I saw that. When the cat goes and finds him and brings him to her, and it's aw. Yeah. Shut up, movie.
Aw. I bet Amy loves this movie.
I bet Amy will never watch this movie. Oh.
Because of the cat.
It's hard enough to get her. It was hard enough to get her to watch Carnosaur. Right? She and MJ, they don't like watching the horror movies.
Mm-hmm.
And given the horror movies that they've had to see, it's understandable. Like they started off with Children of the Corn 3 or 2 or 3, whatever it was, and a Carnosaur and like Leprechaun, 2 Leprechaun movies. Like it's no surprise that they're not big on seeing horror movies.
Yeah.
Speaking of horror movies, we'll be talking about Forrest Gump on the next 94 podcast, which is a horror all of its own.
I've already marked that episode as played. I hate that movie.
We're going to be very funny making fun of it.
Well, you should, because, well, Jenny.
Life is like a box of shit. All right. Speaking of box of shit, how about some flick chart? Because I got two,
sure.
I got two boxes of shit for you first. Doom, starring Dwayne The Rock Johnson in Halloween 2007.
No. Doom, because I really hated that Rob Zombie.
Oh, God.
Bullshit.
Garbage. Absolute trash. The Expendables or Domino, starring Keira Knightley.
Domino.
Yeah. The Expendables were awful. Absolute Power with Clint Eastwood or The Christmas Party 2009. I don't know what that is. Let's skip that one. I don't know what movie that is. That's not the Jason Bateman Christmas Party movie. All right. Absolute Power with Clint Eastwood or Mad Max 1979.
Oh, I hate to give anything to Mel Gibson. Absolute Power was pretty good.
Mm-hmm.
I'm going to take that.
I'm taking Mad Max because the rewatch I just did was really, putting aside the Mel Gibson of it all, it was pretty interesting. See here. Mad Max wins. All right. Jesus Camp or Charlie Chaplin's The Gold Rush?
Jesus Camp is one of the scariest movies ever made. I'm going with that.
True that, yo. And I went with Chaplin, but Jesus Camp wins. The Lobster, or never heard of that. The Lobster or Any Given Sunday.
I have not. I don't think I saw The Lobster.
Really?
Yeah, now that I think of it.
Yorgos Lanthimos, Kellen Farrell plays a guy who wants to be turned into a lobster if he can't find his true love.
I'm aware of it. I mean, I'm aware of what the movie is. I just haven't watched it yet. So,
all right. Well, you should watch it this week. We've got a big Yorgos Lanthimos, movie coming out.
Yeah.
The Lobster wins. National Lampoon's Vacation or Blue Lagoon?
Oh, God.
No, Flaming Trash or Child Porn? Which one do you prefer?
I mean,
there's a Brooke Shields joke in Maxine that just is off the charts.
Yeah. Because you get to see Christopher Atkins' penis in it, let's still go with the Blue Lagoon.
You're choosing the child porn. Okay. That's a choice.
It's not Chevy Chase.
It's true.
And Christopher Atkins was of age.
Yeah. She was not. Pee-wee's Big Adventure or Black Sheep?
Pee-wee's Big Adventure, obviously. Yeah. Although Black Sheep is great.
Really? I didn't love it.
I mean, just it's fun and it's not too serious, and I can watch it.
I guess some of Farley's physical humor is not bad, I guess.
Fat guy in a little coat.
That's Tommy Boy, dude.
Is that Tommy Boy?
That's Tommy Boy.
Oh, yeah. Okay, yeah. Forget it. Yeah, we're not. I'm thinking that's what I was thinking of, Tommy Boy. Sorry. Oh, whatever.
Oh man. All right. Kevin Bacon's Dick in Hollow Man or Lara Croft Tomb Raider Part 2?
Hollow Man.
Kevin Bacon's Dick in Hollow Man. Okay. Come on, play into the long-running joke of Kevin Bacon's dick.
Well, I mean, I watched Maxine and he was kind of repellent in it, so
he was
kind of over his penis.
I so can't wait. I'm so excited to talk about that.
Me too.
Pay It Forward or 13th, the documentary by Ava DuVernay.
13th, yeah.
Pay It Forward is fucking trash.
Yeah, that's the Kevin Spacey one, right?
Yeah. Speaking of Kevin Spacey, The Negotiator or Pink Flamingos?
Pink Flamingos.
By a lot.
Yeah.
By a lot. French Dispatch or Blindness? 2008, Julianne Moore.
I like that movie. I want to go with that.
Really? I'm going with French Dispatch. I loved French Dispatch. Let's see here what the coin says. It's French Dispatch. We've got Pirates of the Caribbean on Stranger Tides or The Notebook.
Pirates of the Caribbean.
Yeah,
I don't like The Notebook.
I think I liked Stranger Tides. I'm not sure. I liked
Yeah,
one of the
it was-
late period ones that kind of surprised me that I actually liked it. Oh, God. Freaky Friday 1976 or Robin Hood 2010 with Russell Crowe.
Freaky Friday.
Yeah. Why they wanted to make that Russell Crowe Robin Hood movie is anyone's guess. And yet they somehow made a worse Robin Hood movie 5 years later. How is that possible?
Well, because they make one every couple of years.
Stop trying to make Robin Hood happen.
Ugh.
Mel Brooks did the definitive Robin Hood, and that's it. It's over. There's no more. Vicky Cristina Barcelona or Ant-Man and the Wasp Quantumania.
Vicky Cristina Barcelona.
Yeah.
I love all the Ant-Man movies. Don't get me. I mean, even Quantumania, I like.
I do too. But Vicky Cristina, say what you will about him. That's a hell of a good movie.
Yeah.
Oh, let's see here. Jason Bourne 2016 or Anastasia 1997.
Jason Bourne.
Yeah, it's really good, actually. You know, with Matt Damon is really great in that role. That Anastasia movie, though, is quite good.
Is it?
Oh, yes.
I don't remember it.
It's beautiful. It's got the cinematography is gorgeous. The setting is beautiful. All right, let's see. That is a porno film. How'd that get in here? I don't know.
Because we're talking about Maxine.
Bad Boys Ride or Die or Red Sparrow with Jennifer Lawrence.
Red Sparrow.
I'm going Bad Boys, actually. I think Red Sparrow had potential, but it didn't quite work for me. Red Sparrow wins.
Yay.
Let's see here. Let's get movies people have actually seen. How about that flick chart? Can we do that? We've got The Wizard of Oz, one we all know. And that's not a movie. I don't even know what that is. That's another fucking animated thing. 1918. No, not going to work.
Is that the sequel to 1917?
No, it was a movie from 1918.
Oh, okay.
Let's see here. Wizard of Oz or Tom Hanks in A Beautiful Day in the Neighborhood.
Oh, Wizard of Oz.
Yeah, I love The Wizard of Oz. There's so much great subtext and just absolute genius behind that movie. It's so much more than a kid's or family film. Really far more than people give it credit for. It's really, when you consider all the challenges behind making that movie and what Judy Garland went through to make that movie, it just deepens the experience of it so much more. Like when I saw Judy with Renee Zellweger and the behind the scenes stuff that they showed from her as a kid on Wizard of Oz, just fucking fantastic. Just the way that helped to deepen, your sympathy for her. And yeah, tangent, but yeah, loved Judy, and I especially loved The Wizard of Oz. Room 237, the Stanley Kubrick Shining documentary, or South Park, Bigger, Longer, Uncut.
South Park.
Definitely South Park. Room 237 sucks balls. Bunch of conspiracy nonsense.
Yeah.
Fucking hated that shit. I turned it off. I was so excited to see that. I wanted to hear all of that shit and hear about all that, the lore that people were building up and all the theories that people had behind the movie. It was just it was just platforming conspiracy theories was all it was. Oh,
yeah.
When does this ever happen? This has never happened on this show, Jeff. This is a first time, and I know which way this is going to go, but the divide in the fandom on these two movies, this is definitive pop culture. We're going to have to stop flick charts after this, not permanently, but like for the show. This is going to be our last one because people are going to be very upset to hear how much we side on one side of this, especially when the divide is so vast. Have you figured out what I'm talking about just from that description?
No, I'm going to need you to tell me.
Star Trek the Motion Picture or The Empire Strikes Back?
Oh, you know what I'm going to say.
You know what I'm going to say.
The Empire Strikes Back.
By a lot. Fucking 2 hours of that fucking ship. Just flying up to the ship, just looking at the ship, looking at the ship. Fuck. I do love Star Trek as a franchise, guys. Please don't hate us for being a Star Wars for being a Star Wars podcast. This just happens to be the thing where we just happen to be a fully Star Wars podcast as opposed to the Star Trek side. And I appreciate Star Trek. Do you appreciate Star Trek?
Yeah, oh yeah.
It's not like you have to be one or the other, but it feels like it does feel like that you're either a Paul or a John type argument, you know?
So when I was a kid, my mom, whose birthday would have been today, she said, when I said I wanted to go see Star Wars again, because you and I saw Star Wars together, even though you don't remember it because you were like 2. I said I want to go see Star Wars again. She goes, "You watch it on TV." Well, that's like saying we have Star Wars at home, but it was Star Trek. So I grew up hating Star Trek because everybody tried to pass it off as Star Wars, which was my favorite. So
yeah, similar thing. But your mom was a wonderful human being, just an absolutely adorable human being, just like my mom. And so I'm glad you're here doing this today. And a little shout out to Margie. She was fantastic.
Thank you. So was Sue.
All right, Jeff.
And if I believed in heaven, they would be playing canasta.
No doubt about it.
Only in our heads.